During his State of the Union address, the president once again pushed for immigration reform.
If we're serious about economic growth, it is time to heed the call of business leaders, labor leaders, faith leaders, law enforcement, and fix our broken immigration system. Republicans and Democrats in the Senate have acted, and I know that members of both parties in the House want to do the same.
Well, this week, House Republican leadership released the set of principles that they believe any immigration bill should contain. My next guest says politicians in Washington ought to meet with the law enforcement officers. That's the folks whose job it is to enforce immigration laws, and they ought to do this before they go ahead and make drastic changes. Joining me now is President of the National ICE Council, Chris Crane. Chris, welcome back. It's good to talk to you again.
Thank you, Governor. Thanks for having me on.
You know, when we talked before, Chris, I've always asked you, have people in Congress sat down with people like you and other enforcement officers who have to deal with immigration every day? Had they asked you what you think, what works, what doesn't work? And I want to ask again, in light of this new proposal, has anyone from Congress or the White House approached the ICE officers and asked for your input?
Well, the President of the United States continues to refuse to respond to our request to speak with him. So absolutely not. Nobody from the White House has had anything to do with us. They, of course, have illegal aliens and special interest groups that represent illegal aliens come to the White House. But ICE agents and Border Patrol agents are excluded from participation with the White House. We have had a few lawmakers approach us, but for the most part, even lawmakers have kind of kept us out of this process. Of course, the Gang of Eight did. We had no part in that. And on the House side, it looks like we're kind of headed down that same path right now. We're hoping that Paul Ryan, Speaker Boehner, Eric Cantor, we're hoping that they will meet with us personally to discuss with us. And I would also very much like to have an opportunity to speak to Republican House members to discuss with them how these bills will affect us and things that we can do to fix our broken immigration system.
Chris, what is it you want to say to them? If I could put them all here in front of you and you could talk to the Speaker and to various House leaders before they push this through the House and get it over to the Senate, what is it you think they need to know in developing any immigration proposals?
They need to know a lot, and there's way too much for me to try to describe on your show. But I mean, one thing that I would like to tell them, for example, Governor, is that at this moment, we have a humanitarian crisis on our southern border. Our southern border is being overrun right now in certain areas by people coming here seeking the DREAM Act, seeking amnesty. And we're just talking about it at this point. And most problematic, most troubling and alarming is the number of children coming across our border all by themselves, seeking the DREAM Act, you know, being turned over to members of drug cartels and human traffickers. Children that are infants, 9 months old, 14 months old, again, put in the arms of drug cartel members to carry them across the border. And some of our offices, it's so out of control that just one office is averaging over 2,000 of these unaccompanied children each and every month. We're anticipating on the southern border this year that we're going to apprehend approximately 50,000 of these unaccompanied children that are coming across the border by themselves. Everyone up on Capitol Hill and these special interest groups that say what we're doing right now is the humane thing to do or the right thing to do or even the Christian thing to do are dead wrong.
You know, it's shocking, Chris, thinking of 50,000 unaccompanied children just being handed over the borders. I mean, I'm thinking any parent in America who just let their kid get pushed off anywhere would be guilty of child abuse. You've really brought to light some shocking things that I've not heard. I don't hear anybody else talking about this. And perhaps the reason is because only guys like you who deal with these issues every day would know. You've been outspoken. You've been on our show before. You've been very clear in your criticism because you feel like that the people who are dealing with these issues on the enforcement side aren't being listened to. I'm curious, what has happened in your career? Has there been any appreciation for what you've said, or has there been retaliation for what you have said openly and publicly?
Well, the American public has been overwhelmingly supportive, and I just want to say thank you very much to America for that. Personally, for me, back in October, the agency, my managers approached me while I was at my office doing my job as a law enforcement officer and told me that I had to leave the building, that I could no longer perform law enforcement duties, that they were taking away 25% of my salary, and I was scheduled for a foreign detail. They told me that I was being taken off of that they didn't care what the expense would be to the government to replace me, but they were sending me home, and that I could no longer do any type of, again, law enforcement activities. And I asked, is there some type of allegation that I've committed some kind of act of misconduct or something of that sort? And I was told no. I was told that because I'm the union president, I would not be able to perform law enforcement duties. They would take 25% of my pay away, and until I was willing to step down and quit blowing the whistle on what's happening in our immigration system, that they would continue to do this to me.
So for you telling the truth, you get a pay cut, you essentially get taken off all the duties that you have been responsible for and told just to disappear and go away unless you're willing to shut up. That doesn't hardly sound like the sort of open government that I think we expect. But Chris, thank you for the courage in stepping out and speaking out. We need to know what the truth is, and we're so grateful to have you here today. Thanks for joining us again.
Thank you for your support, Governor.
After serving 40 years in Congress, California Democrat Henry Waxman has decided to call it quits. So should Washington politicians be allowed to hold an office for such a long time? Many Americans, including me, say we want term limits. But is that ever going to be a reality? We'll talk about it next. And later, actress Scarlett Johansson turns Mideast ambassador. Stay with us.